It's getting closer. Game week is coming. Things will count on Sunday. I am so excited for this. We just endured our last Sunday without the NFL until February. So bring it on. Let's go. There's going to be such a roller coaster of emotions. And I, for one, am buckled in to ride it out with you, Dan Wiederer from the Chicago Tribune. I'm Dionne Miller from ABC 7. Dan, I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm ready to look beyond just the quarterback when it comes to the Bears.
No question about it. First of all, this is going to be an interesting Sunday because the Bears have that night game stage, right? And so there's a long buildup to playing that first game. Ask Cole Kmet on Monday, what is he going to do to kind of kill that time? It can be such an antsy period where you wake up in the morning, you're in California, you got to wait until the evening to play your game. He said he was going to watch some Dr. Death perhaps on Hulu to pass the time.
Can I endorse what he said though? Mayor of Easttown.
So we just started that. We're late to the party there, and we just started it. So
it's so good. And then I have your next one. If anyone's curious what they want to watch after that, those are the two that you should watch. But in the beautiful words of one Carrie Underwood, we'll be waiting all day for Sunday night. So what will we be thinking about when we're waiting all day for Sunday night? Am I going first here? We're going to talk about players that are going to be so key to the Bears' success this year outside of QB1. So am I starting or are you starting?
Or QB2. Outside of the QB room altogether, even QB3. Yeah, I think it's important. Obviously, we've spent months and months and months and months and months talking about Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. It's been the hottest topic in the city. And now we're going to shine the spotlight to different rooms at Hallis Hall and give you the 5 players that we think are the most important to the Bears' success in 2021 who are not named Justin or Andy.
Yes.
You lead off.
Oh, I'm going first? Okay. David Montgomery.
Love it.
The reason I say this is because he has shown flashes of it. He wants to take another step and be more of a leader on and off the field, and he has shown that. But if he has a great season, that means that Matt Nagy didn't run away from the running game, and I think he needs to really embrace it and get the ball moving on the ground. And so I'm looking for David Montgomery to have a breakout year and to really make his presence known in the NFL. I think he has the talent and ability to do it, and I feel like this is his time.
There are guys on this team where when you talk about a mindset that you want to sort of be tone setting for your locker room and your team, David Montgomery embodies that for the Bears. And it's really interesting to kind of watch him ramp himself up for this season because he knows what the season can mean to himself individually, but even more so, he wants to win a championship with this team and he wants to bring other guys along with him. Totally. I've been very impressed with the way that he has approached his business, right, and his craft over the offseason. Really wasn't satisfied with the success he had down the stretch of last year, wants to do more, hopes that Matt Nagy, who he has a strong relationship with, gives him opportunity to do more. That is a great choice right out of the gates for you. I am going to go kind of hand in hand with that here, and I'm going to give you Jason Peters because at age 39, the guy who was standing on a creek fishing when the Bears decided that they had reached a level of absolute desperation at left tackle and called him up and said, hey, you remember Juan Castillo? You remember working with him? Why don't you come work with him again? And Peter said, all right, here I come. He is so key in sort of stabilizing that offensive line. We talked about it in our last video. He hasn't had a lot of time here to sort of get himself in football shape. And the Bears insist that he will start Sunday night in Los Angeles, that he should be able to play the whole game. They've kind of given themselves an out, that it would be Larry Borum who would fill in case that, there is an issue, whether it's an injury or a conditioning issue where you'd need to come out for a few snaps. But Jason Peters, I think, is that guy up front that has to stabilize that most important position on the offensive line to, 1, get David Montgomery going, 2, protect whichever quarterback is playing back there, and 3, just give you that feeling like the offensive line isn't going to be this weekly problem like it was a year ago, right?
Right, exactly. And that is a solid pick. And I am not shy about my affinity for linemen either side of the ball. I love that the hard work in the trenches, and it's Jason Peters is a delight when it comes to that, right? Like, he's fun to watch. He's great to listen to. He's got such experience. His story is outstanding. And if he can come in and solidify that side of the line, it will be huge for this team. Huge. It'll be huge for my first pick, David Montgomery. It'll be so big to have his leadership show up in a way that the Bears have desperately needed it and to build some consistency up front. So I wholeheartedly agree with that. So I'm on the fence now because I picked Eddie Jackson for my next one. Okay. So I feel like, and then I was like, oh, maybe Jaylon Johnson, but maybe we'll have time for him later because I think Eddie needs a step up this season. He'll admit it. He needs takeaways. He needs to change things downfield and make it hard for quarterbacks to move the ball downfield. And he has that ability. We've all seen it. We know it. New number, new year. I feel like he is going to be very, very key to the success of this defense.
I like the pick because Eddie obviously cannot go all of 2021 without an interception. He knows that. I think has been introspective lately and saying, look, like I have to stop lamenting the lack of interceptions. I have to stop dreading the 2 pick sixes that were called back due to penalties in 2020.
Yeah.
So that Khalil Mack told him recently, listen, if you're a great one, you find a way to make plays no matter what is stacked against you. He has to do that. He has to do that in a Sean Desai-led defense that's going to give him opportunities to move around, to be in different places, to have him around the ball more than he was in the 2 years that Chuck Pagano was calling the shots with the defense. And so Eddie is a great pick in terms of a guy that can get this defense getting back into a top 10, top 5 level very quickly if he reaches his potential. I'm going to go off of that and say Roquan Smith for my second one, because I think when you talk about Eddie, Roquan, and Khalil Mack, this is about Sean Desai understanding who the best 3 players on his defense are at all 3 levels and saying we're going to find ways to make these guys impact playmakers every single week. When you talk to each of these guys, they have this sort of glow about them in terms of what Sean is bringing to the defense, in terms of what he is going to do to be creative, to move them around, to give guys more opportunities to play to their strengths. And Roquan coming off of what was a terrific year in 2020 with a chance to go a step above that in 2021. By the way, probably playing for a new contract and doesn't have an agent, Dionne, which is an interesting little footnote on what Roquan is doing right now. It
is awesome. I'm so proud of Roquan Smith because, like when he came in, you weren't sure he'd find his voice on the field, right? You weren't sure he was going to be that kind of a leader. Last year was such a huge step for him. And I love that he's negotiating his own deal. Like, I think that says a lot about his personality and character and what he knows he's capable of, right? And so I agree with you. That's a solid pick in that middle of that defense to quarterback them in a way that will elevate their play to what they're capable of. And we mentioned you have got Khalil Mack, you've got Eddie Jackson, you've got Roquan, like right there is like up the middle, making it miserable for the opposition. And that's what they need to do again on a more consistent level. So excellent pick right there.
Remember that before you get to your last one, remember the contract holdout when Roquan finally came back and signed his rookie deal in 2018 and said, that's between my agent and Mr. Pace. That's between my agent and Mr. Pace. He can't say that anymore because he's his agent. Now he has to answer those questions.
I'm telling you, I admire the bravery and the courageousness of negotiating your own deal. I admire it so much. I will not do it, but I admire it so much. Okay, so next I've got 3 more. I'm not sure where to go. I'm going to stick on defense, and I'm going to say Akeem Hicks. And here's why. Okay. We have not talked to him yet, right? So whatever's going on is impacting him, right? It's in his head. So I feel like he's got to find a way to compartmentalize it in a way, in a part of his career that he never has before. And so I'm interested to see how that might impact the way that he plays, because again, you stacking up those defensive stars, those defensive like rocks in this for the Bears, it starts up front with Akeem. And I'm interested to see how he will start this season and if he'll be able to stay healthy, because that has not been the case the last couple of years.
Much of our audience doesn't care, but Akeem has declined to speak to the media since last season ended. I think the last time we actually spoke with him was after the playoff loss to the Saints in New Orleans, and nobody really understands where this came from. Akeem was usually one of the more accessible, regular speakers in person on Zoom. He would speak. He would give good answers. He'd be insightful. What's happening on that front? I have no idea. Matt Nagy won't explain it to us. Matt Nagy won't hold him accountable and tell him, Akeem, listen, this is part of your professional responsibilities. Like I say, most of our audience doesn't care. They usually take the player sides on these cases. It's just odd to me that a guy who is usually so gregarious and willing to speak has suddenly put himself in a bubble or whatever you want to call it without any reason. I don't know what it stems from. And so it does lead back to your question about mindset. Is the contract discontent in his head on such a regular basis that he's now just feeling like he needs to take extra steps to draw attention to himself? I don't know what it is, Dionne, but it's odd and it just can't trickle over onto his play on the field. And remember, listen, if I'm the Bears, I'm not giving Akeem Hicks a contract extension either. He's in his 30s. He's almost 3 years removed from the peak of his career. The team is strapped with salary cap problems right now. There's no way that you pay Akeem Hicks at this stage. No. And so he's got to get past that as quick as possible play to his highest level, and then see where things head. But it has been a very odd few months on the Akeem Hicks saga. All right, I'll give you one last one. I know we said we were going to do 5, but you mentioned Jaylon Johnson, so I'm going to pair him up with Cole Kmet as 2 guys going into their second seasons who I think need to have big seasons for the side of the ball to reach their full potential. Jaylon Johnson, obviously, holding down a cornerback position that doesn't have a lot of established, proven depth and talent to it. He's got to figure out a way to become a top 5 corner in this league, which is, buddy, Tayshaun Gibson, the safety, said is in his future, that he's going to be a top 5 NFL corner. Kmet, we talked about David Montgomery earlier. This is another guy who, mindset-wise, seems to be absolutely dialed in to tapping into his fullest potential. Really like where he's at, really like his opportunity now in an offense that features the tight end so heavily to have a breakout year and make a lot of people happy, including those 2 quarterbacks that we talked about that we weren't going to talk about. Cole Kmet can be a big friend to those guys going forward.
No question about it. And Cole Kmet was actually on my list as well. I think we've seen we've actually seen him, right? We didn't actually meet him last year because of the COVID issues. So he's gone to tight end university. He's spent a ton of time with Jimmy Graham. He seems to have come into his own off the field. And now we're ready to see it on the field. I think that will be huge for them with his blocking ability and his ability to get open, his size, all those things I think are going to be so key for whoever ends up being behind center, but especially Andy Dalton as he gets started. I'm really excited to see what Cole Kmet can do. But, I know we said we were only going to limit this. I mean, like, as we're talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, Eddie Goldman, Robert Quinn, Allen Robinson. And I'm cheering for Rodney Adams to somehow make the team, be on the 53 man for a game at some point. Like, I'm so cheering for this. So lots of players to talk about.
It's funny because we said 5 and then we got to 7 and then you took it up to 8, 9, 10. It reminds me of when my wife and I tell our son, hey, pick one dessert. You're at a party, you say, pick one. Do you want the Rice Krispie treat or the brownie or the chocolate cookie? And suddenly he's got all 3 on a plate and he's eating them all and he can't limit himself. And we just say, all right, let's go with it. So that's what we are on the show. We can't contain ourselves. We can't show any discipline.
We're still figuring out the why, Dan. We're still figuring out the why.
No holds barred.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so excited. It's going to count. We're going to have so much more to discuss after the game. I think that's what I'm ready for now. I'm ready now. I'm ready.
And I'm going to tease this, even though the outside world doesn't know. We're going to have a lot more fun things ahead in the 2021 season. But first, you have to subscribe to this channel. And you have to like this video. And again, you have to leave very nice comments in the comment section, and we'll bring you more surprises.
Exactly. Be kind. Share it with a friend. That's all we're asking.
On we march into week 1.